Video, I'm gonna talk about really interesting topic. I'm gonna talk about the origins of the planet Earth. And what I'm going to talk about is, you may consider it to be like a myth or an allegory or that type of thing. And that's up to you to, believe it to be what you feel it is for, at your point in your journey. But I think this information is really, really unique, really deep, and really important in the bigger scheme of things and understanding if you're a truth seeker and you're trying to understand your whole spiritual nature and existence and everything. I think it's a really important piece of the puzzle to at least have in your mind, whether you believe it or not. And also it's important to keep an open mind about it as you take it all in. So that's why I'm telling the story. And a lot of this stuff I truth seek, and I search, and I try to understand for myself, and it's not just purely for the reasons of having knowledge, but a lot of things that I learn and find out, they have been truly transformational, and they changed my life in a really deep, profound way. And when I say change my life, I don't, I mean that in a lot of different ways. I mean mentally, physically, and beyond. So a lot of these things have really made huge, important transformations in my life. So it makes me really want to just keep going and not stop, because there's so much more to know, so much more to find, and the thanks I get from it are really deep and really profound, and it's really amazing. It's a feeling that's indescribable. So this knowledge and information, it comes from ancient Sumerians, 4,000 years ago. And the way they get the information from about the ancient Sumerians, the majority of where they get the information from is from ancient texts. And the texts are written in the language, they're written in cuneiform language, or like pictographs and symbols in cuneiform. I don't know exactly how you call it. But a lot of what was written, the translations were, they could be interpreted in different ways, based on who reads into it and what they think, because we don't know what their true life was like back then, so we don't really know exactly what they meant. So all we could do is make educated guess, based on the context of the history of them that we know of and that we feel that we understand. But some things were undeniable. That some of the information was undeniable that was found from them. For example, they spoke of spacecrafts and people or beings flying spacecrafts and things like this. And that's, for me, that's kind of undeniable. How, like 4,000 years ago, how could you even dream up something like that in your imagination? Well, I guess you could, but in the context of all the rest of the stories surrounding it, how can you put it into this context? How did you create this context? Even the context of a lot of what they talked about was advanced, and like believed that this was not possible for that time. They also had advanced mathematics, science. They had, for example, with the science, they had an advanced knowledge of the cosmos, and they knew the existence of certain planets back then, 4,000 plus years ago, that we just knew of like the past 150 years ago. Particularly, I'm talking about now the 3 planets that you can't see with the naked eye, which are Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. They already had knowledge of these planets back then. And so on. It's a whole deep rabbit hole. They had so much other information that were in these tablets. That's just a small piece of what I've learned that they knew about, but there's so much more. And another part of their history that kind of overlaps what we believe and think and feel is like the tablet information. I'm using tablets because this is like the main piece of, this is the best, one of the best things that we have from them that unlocks pieces of the puzzle. A lot of the tablet information overlap biblical information, but the tablets were made like more than 2,000 years prior to the Bible being made. So I guess you could say the Bible makes references to the tablets, and then that leads down other rabbit holes. Like okay, so if this was first, maybe this got this, maybe the Bible got all this information from this, or some things were overlapping and crossing over back in those times. But whether it was one way or another, what's clear is that the information it's a lot. Some things were altered. Some things were altered and hidden, and the logical thing, and you can base it on like today's situation with censorship and with the internet, with our information. It's really important to control what people see and control what they believe. So it was likely really important that the powers that be of those times made sure that really valuable information didn't get into the wrong hands, and for them the wrong hands was the common man, because the desire for power is like a huge vulnerability that some human beings have, and it is believed that a very small few they rule this earth, this world, this earth, and pretty sure it was no different back then, and we're all trying to figure this whole thing out and understand and ultimately get our power back. So that's one. I kind of digressed on that, but the whole point of me making this video, the major point of me making this video, is to talk about one story from the tablets, and the story from the tablets that I'm going to talk about is the creation of the planet Earth. And the story is going to be kind of far-fetched, but it was one of many stories in those tablets, and I personally don't think it's far-fetched at all. I think it's a matter of interpretation and interpreting it correctly. I think I think we could say that we're not interpreting it correctly, but to say is false, so it's just very narrow-minded thinking, and I don't think that's the case. But here's the story. The story goes something like this. Back then, when the planet Earth was created, there was 9 planets prior to the Earth actually being created, and those 9 planets were Mercury, Venus. No Earth. There was a planet called Tiamat, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and there was no Pluto. Is that 9 planets? I'll do this again. Mercury, Venus, Tiamat, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and then the 9th planet is the planet Nebiru. Sound familiar? So the 9th planet was Nebiru back then. So what happened? Where did the Earth come from? Now, the planet Nebiru has a different orbit than the rest of the planets. The rest of the planets have like a circular oval-like orbit. It's called an elliptical orbit, and they orbit around the sun. Okay, we need to go clockwise. They orbit around the sun like this. Now, the planet Nebiru has a very irregular orbit, and it orbits around the sun like this. So it goes way outside of the other planets. And the planet Nibiru's orbit, it takes approximately 3,600 years to make one orbit around the sun. And when the planet Nebiru comes into the inner solar system, it crosses paths with other planets. Well, actually, it crossed paths with one planet back then, and the planet that it crossed paths with was the 3rd planet back then, called Tiamat. And as you know, if 2 planets cross paths, it's only a matter of time and a matter of mathematics of when they're going to actually just collide with one another. And as you know, all the planets are on a plane. They're on the same plane. They orbit around the sun, and they're on the same plane. Now, the planet Nebiru and the planet Tiamat, they collided with one another back then. And when that collision happened, four things were formed. And the fourth thing is going to be even more speculative than the first three things. The first thing that happened during the collision, and keep in mind, during that collision, Nibiru's moon was also involved in the collision. So Nebiru hit the planet, and Nibiru's moon was also involved in that collision. So when the collision happened, a big chunk of Tiamat formed into the planet Earth. So Earth used to be a part of a planet called Tiamat. And another part of the debris from the collision turned into the asteroid belt. There's between the planet Mars and Jupiter, there's an asteroid belt. And that was a result of that collision. And another part of that collision ended up being comets. Comets chipped off, and they were part of that collision. Now, I'll explain this. With those three new things that formed from this collision, you have to think about this. All the planets, if you look down at the planet Earth, down at the solar system from above, all of the planets circle the sun in a clockwise motion. The asteroids in the asteroid belt, they also circle the sun in a clockwise motion. Now the comets, because of the collision with the planet Nebiru, they went in a different direction. So they go in a counterclockwise direction. Okay, so am I leaving anything out? Yes, I am. The planet Pluto. Where did the planet Pluto come from? And again, this is going to get really speculative. The planet Pluto came from Nibiru. When Nebiru came into, that whole collision happened. Nibiru's gravity and its the waves in outer space affected the orbit of one of Saturn's moons. So one of Saturn's moons was knocked out of orbit and knocked into the outer edges of the solar system. And that moon of Saturn became Pluto. That's the planet Pluto. So that's it. That's the whole story of how the planet Earth was created. And I'm going to take you deeper into this story later, and we're going to go into some different aspects of this. And I think some of you already know where I'm going, but I'll kind of give you a preview now. About 450,000 years ago, this is the time speculated for the inhabitants of the planet Nebiru to have visited here, the planet Earth, and lots of different things happen amongst the creatures of Earth and the creatures of Nebiru. And of course, the creatures of Nebiru were considered far more advanced and superior, and they did things to people on Earth, and which changed everything forever. And a lot of that information coincides with religious texts and geological information. You just have to dig down deep and find it, and you can tie it together. Now, when you don't have these links, then it just sounds like really like crazy talk. But once you can link it together, then it becomes more and more logical. You say, So that's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm doing research for myself. Of course, a lot of it is already done, and I'm just kind of educating myself. But I'm also learning my own personal, get my own personal knowledge, my own personal information. I'm deriving it from everything that I find. Also, I think everyone, you should too, and everyone should too. But yeah, this is like a huge rabbit hole, and I'm gonna go in deeper later in future videos that are going to be tied to this. It's going to be very different, but the story is going to be tied all together in the future. And again, I'm not learning all this stuff just to sound not be so I could say I sound knowledgeable or whatever, because it's good. Well, it's good to be able to talk to someone about anything, and have the material in your mind to talk about anything whenever any conversation comes up. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is a superpower. But as I mentioned earlier, a lot of things just along my path, learning things. I've been I learned, sometimes I learn things that are totally unrelated to what I'm actually trying to learn, and then they completely change my life. And when that happens, it's a really beautiful thing, and it lets you know that everything's worth it. And it also lets you know that the Creator is telling you you're on the right track. Keep going. You're doing what I brought you here to do. So thank you so much for watching my video. I appreciate and love you all. You have a beautiful rest of your day. Don't ever forget. Don't forget. Get outside. Get out in the sun. Take a walk. Breathe fresh air. Take your clothes off. Get naked. Jump in the ocean. Swim in a river. On top of that, do it with some friends. Do it with some family. All of that. Just get in an atmosphere that provides you love and nourishment. And it's kind of what I'm doing now, but there's no people, so I'm gonna find some people. So y'all take it easy. I love you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm gone.